You saw nothing.
I wish I saw nothing.
What's worse, Woody and Bo Peep going through a bad breakup, or Woody being completely evil? If you can believe it, both of these things almost happened, and there's more where that came from. There are quite a few Disney Pixar movies that almost had some very disturbing endings. Number 1. The Lion King had some dark moments, but things were almost much worse. Simba and Scar's fight scene nearly ended with Scar tricking Simba and throwing him into a pit of flames. Simba would have landed in a tree, but Scar wouldn't notice this and instead laughed victoriously, believing he'd successfully launched his own nephew into a fire. As if Scar wasn't already bad enough, he somehow could have been worse.
Life's not fair, is it?
Number 2. Do you know the upsetting story of the version of Lilo and Stitch that could have been? Fans of the movie remember the air chase scene, but it was meant to be different. Very different. Originally, Stitch was meant to hijack a commercial airplane and fly it through a city to save Lilo. In said attempt, he was actually going to crash the plane into multiple buildings. This may have seemed a fine scene at the time, and it was actually fully animated, but the tragic events of 9/11 obviously changed some things, and that scene was reworked. Number 3. The Frozen franchise was almost very, very different. Elsa is certainly a complex Disney princess, or in this case, queen. She had her fair share of struggles, and rather than learning how to overcome them as she does in Frozen, she could have gone a different way, and she almost did. In the original plans for Frozen, Elsa was actually meant to be evil, which is more aligned with the OG fairy tale that Frozen was based on. If you can believe it, Anna and Elsa weren't even sisters. This version ended with a big battle scene where that snow monster was actually one of many that made up an army led by Elsa. Pretty weird to imagine. In the end, though, Anna and Elsa would team up and save Arendelle from a mutual enemy, Prince Hans. And Elsa wasn't the only beloved Disney protagonist who was very close to being not so nice. Number 4. Toy Story nearly had a bad guy as a main character too. Yep, Woody was supposed to be evil. In fact, we can hear Woody's actual voice, aka Tom Hanks, being just downright mean.
Get up here and do your job! Are you deaf?
Luckily, the execs decided that the jerk version of Woody and his verbal abuse of Slinky wasn't the best route to go with this story. Hence, the real Woody was born, and one of the most beloved animated features of all time came to be. Which made way for... Number 5. This film reunited Woody and his love Bo Peep. But it actually almost ended with a breakup between the toy couple. Needless to say, we're relieved we didn't have to see that. They put us through enough tears with Toy Story 3. Number 6. In an earlier version of The Little Mermaid, Ursula attempted to drown Prince Eric. She used her tentacles to strangle him and plunge him underwater. Ursula is certainly sinister as it is, but this is way too dark for a kid-friendly film. Number 7. Tangled was also almost too dark for a kid-friendly film. Mother Gothel was going to convince Flynn that Rapunzel was no longer with them. Yikes. Then Flynn was going to fall and end up blinded. These changes would have made the movie closer to the original fairy tale, but we're glad they changed it up. Number 8. The Jungle Book almost continued on after the ending we know and love, and things would have gotten pretty sad. In an early version, Mowgli reunited with his mother, but then a time jump showed that Mowgli no longer got along with his animal family. Then he would end up hunting down Shere Khan with a rifle. We're thankful the creators left Mowgli's future up to our imaginations. Number 9. Finding Dory nearly ended with some more lost friends. Some of Dory's friends were going to be left behind. With the release of Blackfish, though, the creators felt that folks had enough of sad whale stories, so they gave the characters a happy ending. Number 10. As Tarzan fans, we can't imagine this classic ending another way. Tarzan and Jane belong together amongst all of Tarzan's furry friends and family, right? Well, Tarzan almost actually abandoned his family and home to join civilization with Jane. Luckily, they changed this one. That would have been too sad. Number 11. We could have seen a sadder version of Encanto. In this version, Abuela sees a mural of her late husband, which inspires her to go find Mirabel, who ran away from home. Number 12. Luca nearly included one seriously nightmare-inducing villain. There was almost a giant kraken for the main characters to defeat. Ultimately, though, the creators of Luca wanted a film that didn't portray creatures from the deep sea as bad and dangerous. Since a giant kraken antagonist doesn't jive with that goal, he was cut. Number 13. What if Turning Red was way more intense? It almost was. It could have ended with two giant red pandas fighting like Godzilla and King Kong. Number 14. Seoul almost took the concept of the Great Beyond a bit too far. In the original version, Joe visited the Great Beyond and returned. Yeah, it's best to avoid the afterlife discussion as much as possible in a family-friendly flick. What did you think of these dark endings that almost really happened? Do you like any of these endings better than the ones we actually saw? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you love videos like this one, there's plenty where that came from. Like and subscribe to The Things Animated for more.